Hello and welcome to the webinar. I'm Ann Thayer, contributing editor to the C&EN Media Group, and I'll be moderating today's event. This webinar is entitled Beyond the Spreadsheet, Essential Tools for Patent Analysis, and is being sponsored by IP Checkups. C&EN works with sponsors to identify topics of interest and value to C&EN's audience and consistent with C&EN's mission to provide news and analysis of the chemistry enterprise in a timely, accurate, and balanced fashion. During the webinar, you can adjust the size of the slides on your screen by grabbing the lower right corner with your mouse. If you need technical assistance, please look at the Help widget at the bottom of the screen or type your query into the Q&A box. If you're disconnected during the webcast, please log in again according to the instructions you received earlier. You're encouraged to contribute to the success of the webinar by asking questions at any time during the presentation through the Q&A box on your screen. The questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, and as your moderator, I'll be posing as many as time permits. Please note that C&EN does not endorse any company, products, or services that may be mentioned in the webinars, and that each webinar will be archived at C&EN Online after the live webcast. The presentation today is being sponsored by IP Checkups, a strategic intellectual property services and patent management software firm located in Berkeley, California. IP Checkups assists companies in extracting maximum value from patent information, increasing organizational knowledge and efficiency, and helping strengthen their return on technology investment. Its lead product, PatentCAM, was created to allow inventors to categorize, archive, and monitor essential technical information. The cloud-based platform fosters a collaborative process between R&D, business development, and legal teams to inform product development, M&A, and licensing decisions while minimizing legal risk. During the presentation, we'll hear from two speakers. First up will be Matthew Rappaport, who co-founded IP Checkups in 2004. Matt specializes in IP strategy, patent search and landscape analysis, valuations, and market research to help companies create an intellectual property strategy aligned with business goals. He serves as the industry liaison to the Fung Institute for Engineering Leadership at the University of California, Berkeley, and sits on the Executive Advisory Council of the Early X Foundation. Our second speaker will be Bruce Resnick, who joined IP Checkups in 2013. Bruce manages projects related to intellectual asset management, including IP strategy development, as well as patent search projects related to chemistry, materials, and oil and gas. He has over 30 years of experience working for Fortune 100 companies as a research manager and intellectual asset manager. Bruce is a registered patent agent and has a doctorate in chemistry from New York University. I'll now hand things over to Matt.
Thank you, Ann, and thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. My name is Matt Rappaport, and I am the president of IP Checkups. IP Checkups is a patent analytics, research, and software firm located in Berkeley, California. Patent analysis is a critical activity for any innovative company. Why? In 2018 alone, there were more than 3 million patents filed worldwide. That's a staggering amount of information to search through, organize, and make sense of. This brings us to the problem that many companies face. Patents and scientific literature contain vast amounts of valuable data that must be reviewed by technical experts. Typically, the data is disorganized and scattered among hundreds or thousands of spreadsheets on computers all across the corporation. These spreadsheets contain valuable data and often include notes and comments from technical experts, which can be problematic from a legal perspective. The lack of a standardized process and tools for managing this information results in lost opportunities, limited knowledge sharing, and wasted time and resources. So what is the solution? The solution is a centralized, searchable repository of patents and scientific literature. A systematic database provides a safe place for R&D teams to review, analyze, and share competitive patent information while limiting legal risks. It maintains an institutional knowledge resource as team members come and go. So let's talk about the benefits of maintaining this information in a centralized repository. First, it provides a connection for the legal, R&D, and corporate development teams to organize and collaborate around valuable competitive intelligence information. In addition, by reviewing competitor patents, we can identify new inventions as well as potential partnership and acquisition opportunities. Through reviewing our own patents as well as competitors, we reduce duplicate research. I can't count how many times I've seen patents filed on ideas that were rejected in the patent office due to the filing company's own pre-existing patents. Another benefit to a centralized curated database relevant to your R&D initiatives is that it helps identify whether to acquire or license technology rather than building something from scratch. It speeds up time to commercialization, increases revenue generation opportunities through licensing and offensive litigation, all while reducing risks and costs associated with defending patent infringement lawsuits. The benefits are plentiful. And we need to take advantage of those benefits because so much technical information only exists in patents. This is why I started IP Checkups back in 2004. Develop a patent landscape analysis process that engages stakeholders across disciplines. Capturing, organizing, and sharing knowledge leads to actionable and strategic decision-making. PatentCAM is the key to our value proposition. So what is PatentCAM? PatentCAM takes us beyond the spreadsheet. It's a subscription-based online tool that we've developed to manage patent and technical information. The key features of PatentCAM enable researchers, patent attorneys, and business development teams to maintain a centralized information repository that can be securely shared across the organization. To demonstrate the platform's capabilities, my colleague Bruce Resnick and I created the following case study around algae biofuels. Bruce is a PhD scientist and an experienced intellectual asset management expert. Bruce, take it away.
In 1973, the United States experienced long gas lines due to an embargo of crude petroleum. That was a wake-up call for the need to replace petroleum products with alternative renewable fuels. Two biofuels that were already well known for use in transportation were ethanol and biodiesel. However, they both were produced from crops that were part of the food supply. Therefore, in late 1970s, the federal government funded several projects to look for renewable fuels that would not impact the food supply. In particular, they focused on aquatic organisms. Microalgae appeared to be the most promising. There are many advantages for looking at microalgae, including their considerable diversity with over 100,000 known species, each having a different composition, including high levels of lipids or carbohydrates that could be converted to various biofuels. Also, they can be produced in high yield per acre compared to land-based crops. A wealth of research has been performed by large corporations such as UOP, ExxonMobil, and BP, along with universities and a host of small startups. In all, about 600 entities worked on this technology, and a large percentage have also sought patent protection for their novel ideas. For this case study, over 2,000 worldwide patent publications were selected for analysis. The purpose of this case study was to review patents related to the conversion of algae into useful liquid fuels. The patent landscape process helps us to understand what others have done and identifies opportunities that reduce technical inefficiencies and improve processes. It should be noted that this is not just an academic exercise, since even today, bioethanol and biodiesel comprise less than 10% of the petroleum products consumed in the United States. There are huge commercial opportunities for those who can take the research already performed and build upon them to create viable commercial platforms. Furthermore, the International Energy Agency has set a goal that would require by 2030 the amount of biofuel production in the United States to increase by a factor of 3. To begin the patent analysis, it is important to understand the multi-step process flow that is required to convert microalgae into various biofuels. Cultivation and growth of sufficient quantities of microalgae can be achieved in suitable aqueous environments, such as open ponds or closed photobioreactors. The microalgae must then be harvested and either partially or completely dried. This is followed by either separation of the component carbohydrates, proteins, and fatty oils, or simple extraction of the fatty oils from the complex mixture. The carbohydrates are converted by fermentation to bioethanol, and the fatty oils are converted into biodiesel. If drop-in fuels that are essentially petroleum-like are desired, chemical conversion of the fatty oils to hydrocarbon conversions have been developed. In fact, numerous trials of bio-based aviation fuel have been successfully tested. Regardless of the final fuel products, to achieve commercial viability, the steps in the process flow must each be performed to the highest efficiency, at the lowest cost, and in quantities sufficient to meet the volume of fuels being consumed.
1.
The patents in this case study attempt to optimize one or more of these issues. The patent analysis for this technology is likewise performed in a series of steps that I will now describe. Initially, with input from the client, the breadth of the technology in question is determined. This generates a set of keyword search strategies which are explored in either free or fee-based search engines such as Google, the U.S. Patent Office, the European Patent Office, or commercially available databases such as Questel or Clarivate. Citations and patent classification codes can also be searched. Depending upon the project's scope, searching can be limited by time frame, geography, or specific sections of the patent publication. The results obtained from these searches are then imported into PatentCAM to initiate the analysis. After the references are loaded into PatentCAM, the population is reviewed to remove obvious unwanted references. The population is then divided into categories and subcategories chosen by the searcher. In this case study, the categories and subcategories parallel the process flow for manufacturing biofuels that was already shown above. These categories are populated with references that contain specific keywords. For example, populating a category entitled biodiesel requires a search of all references containing terms such as biodiesel or fatty acid esters. PatentCAM provides numerous features to extract valuable information from the landscape analysis. These include the ability to annotate, abstract, rank, and highlight references, search within or compare and contrast categories, securely share information or get feedback from colleagues, and create visualizations or perform deep dives to find specific references that are critical to the project in hand. Specific examples of these will be shown shortly. Matt will now show you how this case study was performed using our PatentCAM software. This process can be applied to any technology area.
Thank you, Bruce. The following several slides contain videos that will show you how we use PatentCAM to perform the patent landscape analysis. Each video corresponds to the 6 process steps outlined in the previous slide: importing, review and categorize, annotate, abstract, rank, and highlight, search within the data, data sharing, and data visualization. The first thing I'd like to do is orient you to the PatentCAM interface. The section on the left of the screen is called the collection tree. This contains the folder hierarchy where documents are imported and stored. By right-clicking on the algae biofuels folder, I can add a collection to the hierarchy. For this case study, Bruce used a commercially available patent search tool to run searches across worldwide patent information. He then exported a spreadsheet with several thousand potentially relevant patent numbers. Those results are then imported into PatentCAM to analyze, manage, and monitor the results. Importing documents is easy. Here, I will paste some document identifiers into the import dialog that I copied from our source spreadsheet. After clicking Upload, all of the data related to the patents, including the full descriptions, claims, and bibliographic information, is imported into the software. At this point, there is no need to use a spreadsheet. Here, you can see the import summary that appears on my screen. I also receive a copy of this in my email. The area in the middle of the screen contains bibliographic information related to the documents, including the patent number, the original assignee, the title, first inventor, and other bibliographic data. Scrolling over to the right, we can see the custom fields, which are customized around your specific interests. In this example, we have fields for rating patents, to-do lists, reviewer, when patents were reviewed, among others. Over here, on the right side of the screen, is what we call the edit tree. The edit tree is an exact duplicate of the collection tree. However, when I click on a patent, you can see which collections that patent resides in. So the patent which I clicked on resides in wastewater, centrifugation, filtering, and other categories. Below this area is the custom fields entry area where I can enter custom metadata related to each of the patents. The bottom of the screen contains an area called the detail viewer. This area displays additional details about each document, including the full specification, the claims, and patent family numbers. At the top of the screen, we have the action icons. As I scroll over each, you can see what they relate to. Some of the key action icons are for comparing documents in collections, searching within collections, and requesting feedback from third parties. At the very top of the screen, I have three areas where I can either manage, review, or visualize data. We'll look at these more closely a little bit later. Once all the documents were imported into the PatentCAM platform, Bruce created categories and subcategories. Here you can see the categories that Bruce created for this case study, each corresponding with the algae biofuels technology process flow shown earlier. There are categories for algal strains, top assignees, cultivation, harvesting, extraction, and others. Clicking on the cultivation folder reveals several sub-collections for fermenters, open pond systems, photobioreactors, and others. These collections were created based on Bruce's understanding of algae biofuels technology. He then searched within the entire corpus of patents and non-patent literature using keywords to populate each category with the relevant documents. Documents can be reviewed one by one and moved into and out of categories using the edit tree. I'll show you how to do that now. First, you click on the display text field icon to show the abstracts. This allows me to review each document. I can also show claims and other information. Next, I will click on a patent in the patent grid, and then I will open the edit tree. Here you can see all the collections that the selected patent resides. If you want to put this document in another collection, you simply scroll down to it and check the box next to it. In this case, I will move the patent into the test collection. As you can see, there are 11 documents in test now. When I click the patent, it selects that patent to go into the test collection, and now you can see there are 12 documents. I can do the same thing for the next patent and the patent after that. Now, when I select the text collection in the collection tree, you can see the tool loads 14 documents, 11 that had been there previously, plus the 3 I just added. You can also create new categories, run advanced searches, and add the results directly to the new collections. I will show you how to use these features momentarily. The next steps in our process relate to custom fields and highlighting. PatentCAM allows users to create custom columns or easily highlight sections of patents that reflect your team's interests. Custom fields can capture patent rankings, to-do items, or detailed abstracts related to the information found in the patents. This offers a way to keep all the information relevant to the patent landscape in a centralized place. Patent attorneys love this feature as it provides them with a centralized and secure location where comments related to intellectual property can be reviewed and even edited by them. As I scroll across the screen, you can see there are columns for rating, reviewer, to-do items, reviewed on date, claim description, and claim analysis. Here, I will add a sample note in the to-do column. The notes are saved, are editable by administrators, and also searchable. Up here in the right-hand side of the screen, you can see Review Mode. Review Mode enables me to review patents one at a time, add custom metadata, move patents into and out of collections, as well as highlight key terms or phrases within a document. Over here, you can see previous highlights that Bruce left while performing this patent landscape analysis. As I scroll down, you can see the claims and the full specification of each document. Here's how to highlight text. First, I will search for the term centrifugation. As you can see, it appears 13 times within this document. Clicking this down arrow shows me where in the document the term centrifugation occurs. When I select the Save button, I can choose a color and highlight the term in every document in the entire collection or this document only. In this case, I will select the color I want to use, choose document only, and there it is. The next time I go to that patent, that term, centrifugation, will be highlighted. I can also save highlights by simply clicking and dragging over terms within the full specification or the claims. Removing highlights is also very simple. Click on the trash icon next to the highlight you wish to remove, and it will be gone. One of PatentCAM's strengths is the ability to search within and across collections. Rather than searching through 100 million plus patents using traditional patent search systems, PatentCAM enables you to limit your searches to the data that you have imported into the software. Using the Advanced Search interface allows us to deep dive into the repository on a specific subject. For example, we know that supercritical carbon dioxide can be used to extract lipids from harvested algae. To identify these references, I will add a new collection to the collection tree called CO2 supercritical extraction, like this. Then I open the Advanced Search window, which allows me to search across collections for keywords, patent class codes, by date, geographies, custom fields, feedback, and others. In this case, I'll search within the titles, abstracts, and claims for the terms CO2 or carbon dioxide and supercritical. As you can see, there are 28 results. Some are patents and others are non-patent literature. Now I will save these documents into the new CO2 supercritical extraction collection that I created earlier. Next, I will use review mode to look closely at the references. By doing so, we can identify useful information about the process parameters and efficiency of supercritical CO2 extraction. This patent, US 9217119, that Bruce reviewed, discloses details around temperature and pressure. It is distinguished from the rest of the references because it teaches that CO2 extraction does not have to destroy the algal cells, but can still extract lipids for conversion to biofuels. This, of course, means that you do not need to continue to produce new algae. You can just milk the algal cells that you already have. As you can see, we highlighted different aspects of this invention, including temperature ranges, pressure, and other key information within the document to help Bruce and his colleagues understand what's happening in this particular landscape. This is a powerful way to refine your analysis to specific topics, capture the data, and then share with colleagues. Which brings us to the next feature. Another distinctive feature set in PatentCAM is sharing documents and requesting feedback. These collaboration features were built for technical experts and patent attorneys to do two things. One, securely share intellectual property information without having to email sensitive data. And two, provide the ability to request feedback from colleagues while enabling attorneys and project managers to review, edit, and manage the information, all of which is captured directly in the PatentCAM interface. The Share Collections feature is enabled by selecting a collection that you would like to share and then clicking on the Share Results tab. Here, I'll click on the Cultivation collection and then come over here and click on the Share Results tab. You can add an expiration date and add a message as well. Clicking Generate Link creates a link that you can send a colleague. When the recipient clicks on the link, they can review the documents in a simplified PatentCAM interface. You can control permissions to allow for read-only users or read-write access, depending on the circumstance. Requesting feedback is another collaboration feature that enables users with administrative privileges to request feedback on a single patent or groups of patents. Feedback can be requested from any third party, whether they have a PatentCAM account or not. The admin user selects the documents that he or she wants feedback on. Then the user clicks here on the Request Feedback link. The admin user requests feedback from a secondary user by entering the user email address, a subject, and email text. Then press Send Request. The recipient receives an email with a link that allows them to review the documents and add feedback as appropriate. Clicking on the link, the recipient sees this dialog. Click Leave Feedback, and as you can see, the bibliographic information related to the patent is up here at the top, and then you see what looks like review mode. So the recipient can review the patent and add feedback as necessary. Once the user completes leaving feedback and clicks on the Finalize button, this dialog appears to confirm that you are done leaving feedback. The next time the admin user logs back into their account, the feedback can be revealed in the following way. First, click on the Show Various Text Fields tab here. you'll see the abstract is displayed. If I click on the down arrow, I can also display other items, including feedback. Here you can see the feedback left by the recipient. Each time feedback is left by a user, you can see the user who left the feedback, the date and time stamp, who requested the feedback, as well as the feedback request text. Admin users can then edit feedback left by third parties. This enables users with administrative privileges, for example attorneys, to monitor and remove objectionable comments left by technical experts. By clicking on the Edit button, I can then go in and remove part of the problematic text. As you can see, the feedback is now edited. These features enable R&D teams to explore the frontiers of the competitive patent landscape while providing lawyers with tools to mitigate risks. Finally, we will look at how to visualize data using PatentCAM. These tools help you to understand trends and overlapping technologies within your dataset. Clicking on the Visualize tab up here opens up the Charts and Graphs dashboard. As you can see, there are charts for top assignees, patent filing, and publication velocities, or the number of patents that have been filed or published over time. And then over here, top assignees by geography. Over to the right, we have the collection tree, which we saw from the earlier patent grid and collection tree screen. And finally, we have the patent numbers themselves along with bibliographic information. These charts are meant to provide a high-level overview of the data organized in PatentCAM, but can also be used to derive very specific insights. For example, by selecting assignees on the x-axis, while choosing specific algal strains on the y-axis, like this, we can see that certain companies such as UOP did not focus their patent filings on the algae source. When the algae source was a focus, at least by these assignees, chlorella appears to be the most common choice. In another example, I will switch the x-axis to publication year. Then I will look at patent activity in algal growth categories. Specifically, I will look at brackish water, fresh water, salt or seawater, and wastewater. The results indicate that all of the water sources are viable for algae production. This concludes the video portion of the webinar. Hopefully it is now clear how PatentCAM offers significant advantages over trying to manage this information in spreadsheets. So why is it so important to go through this process? Even with a software system that costs tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, the savings compared to the cost of a single patent litigation is significant. Beyond that, deploying PatentCAM improves your opportunities to innovate. At this point, we'd like to open it up to your questions. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining this webinar. As mentioned earlier, we will be sending a copy of this presentation to everyone who attended today. And if you have any questions about our presentation, our methods, or how we can help you better manage the patent landscape, we'd be happy to chat. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Matt and Bruce, for that great presentation. As we said, we have time for some questions now. I do want to point out that IP Checkups is happy to make a copy of the presentation available, and that the replay of the webinar will also be available at C&EN online. But now for questions, I have one for Bruce. Bruce, is it problematic from a legal perspective for technical experts to have notes associated with patent summaries, or problematic to have summaries spread across the organization? We've had a lot of questions about these discovery-related issues. Wondered if you could answer that.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent question, and it's certainly something which companies need to think about. I mean, in general, if you have a bunch of technologists that are keeping information in their own files that nobody else sees, that's probably the most problematic situation. Using the tool like PatentCAM, where it can be, that it can be oversight by the legal department, that I think offers the benefit of having the legal people review the comments that are present, review and remove any that could be problematic. So at the end of the day, I think it's actually reducing the risk to an organization rather than increasing the risk.
Great. Thank you. I think some questions for Matt. We've had a lot of questions about keywords and terms used. One of them is, do you have any suggestions about how to get keywords right?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to let Bruce take that one just because he's the expert patent searcher. So go ahead, Bruce. Can you talk a little bit about getting keywords right for the search?
Yeah. Well, probably the most critical part of this whole process is actually to get the right set of keywords. If you are too specific, you might very well miss key references. If you're too broad, then you'll be pulling in references that may not be relevant to what the client is looking for. So there are a number of issues that I think need to be looked at when you're trying to determine the scope and the breadth of the keywords. For instance, one of the biggest issues is looking for synonyms. So a lot of times when you talk to the technologist or when you talk to the business people, they have a very specific set of keywords that they have in mind. But if you open it up to the general group within the client base, you'll find that there are other synonyms that could be added as well. I think the other issues typically are looking for terms that might be foreign terms, looking for abbreviations that certain companies might use. And then, of course, there's just the general jargon. So it's kind of critical to look at all of those potential terms that could be used. And then the second step, which is the most critical, is actually going in, reviewing a sample set of references, and looking for terms that you might not have thought about initially. So it's an iterative process, I think, to get to the point where you have the most important keywords and eliminate ones that will just pull in references that might not be of significant interest.
Okay. Someone asked specifically, for example, what would happen if you used a different term for the same thing? Say someone used the abbreviation SCCO2, which is commonly used for supercritical CO2.
Surely. Well, I mean, the issue is with this tool, you can add as many terms as you wish to the search strategy. So you can have a bunch of OR terms, and that's why it's so critical to look at the art to see how companies are using terms. For the very same term, different companies might use different ways of either spelling it or using abbreviations or using their own jargon. So the critical thing is to go out there, read a set of patents, and try to make sure that you're not missing anything. At the end of the day, you can never be 100% certain that you're going to capture everything. But I think the more you look and the more you think about it and the more people that you talk to, the greater the possibility that you'll capture the majority of the art.
What about similar terms or derivations of words? For example, if you use centrifugation, will it also find centrifuge, or do you have to be very specific about all the terms you use?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the tool has stemming built in. So if you type in centrifuge, it should pick up derivatives of centrifuge, centrifugation, etc. But you can also use a wildcard, like a star at the end of the word or at the beginning of the word to pick up words that stem from the same root.
Another question from the audience. Someone asks about the taxonomy. Is it organized on a per project basis or is it system-wide?
Yes, so that's a great question. The taxonomy can be divided into subfolders. So you can have, for example, a top-level folder that is tagged to your particular company, and then you can have subfolders for each of the business units or each of the R&D projects that your company is working on. So a company that's diversified across different verticals, they can have the taxonomy organized with folders around each of those categories. And then the permissions can also be set up so that certain users can see certain folders and collections, and other users can see other folders and collections. So in one example, we have a client with dozens of business units, and they have dozens of folders for each business unit, and certain users within the corporation can see certain folders and other users can see other folders. And then the legal department actually has the top-level view to be able to review any comments that are being made, sanitize those comments to make sure that they're not bumping up against any potential discovery issues for litigation.
Someone asks what I think might be a related question. Where is the aggregated information from clients saved? Is it on client servers or IP checkup servers?
Oh, yeah, that's another common question. So we have 3 different models for hosting data. We can set the system up behind the company's firewall, and so it would be on their servers. We can set it up on a shared use database in the cloud, which would mean that many customers would be using the same server in the cloud. And then we can also set up a dedicated server in the cloud that would just serve one particular customer. And so we've sort of have clients that are using all 3 of those different models.
We had a number of questions come in about importing data from different platforms and things. So someone asks, is Excel the only way to import patent data? And how do you import non-patent literature, such as NPL? Can the NPL be placed in the same categories as the patent literature?
Yeah, so good question. Basically, the import function is agnostic, so you could use any data that you download from commercially available databases like Microsoft or Questel or Clarivate. You could use data from the U.S. Patent Office, from the European Patent Office, from Google Patents. Really, it doesn't matter where the patent numbers come from. The idea is that you can import a list of patent numbers, and then we'll go out to our servers and grab all of the relevant bibliographic and text information. In terms of non-patent literature, you can also paste the document object identifier numbers into the import window and import any of the bibliographic information related to non-patent literature. We do also have the ability to upload PDFs to the system, so if there was a dissertation or some published literature that we didn't have in an online source, you could actually save it in a PDF and then import that right into the tool, and it would be there for viewing.
Someone asks, is there an easy way to keep the database up to date?
Yeah, we do have the collections updated. So essentially, once you create a collection, we can tie the search strings that were used to develop that collection to that collection, and then have that be updated on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So it's essentially an automated monitoring tool. Once you set up the search string, you can capture it in the tool and then keep it up to date, which makes doing things like freedom to operate studies much easier, because you can create the search strings for the freedom to operate study, and then you can save them in the tool and keep the freedom to operate study up to date.
A question I thought was interesting from the chemical community. Medicinal chemists tend to communicate using structures rather than keywords. How does PatentCAM handle chemical structures?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We actually developed a program that ran for about 10 years for a large pharmaceutical company called Gilead Sciences, where we had some of our technical experts, our medicinal chemists, reviewing patents on a weekly basis, actually several times a week, and they were then drawing representative chemical structures from those documents. So they were looking at the documents, reviewing them, and then trying to identify a single representative structure that was representative of the type of information that was inherent in that particular patent. And then those images were uploaded to the tool, and we were essentially delivering an updated database of different technology areas with chemical structures on a twice weekly basis. And we did that. We ran that program for about 12 years.
Someone asks whether there's any intelligent screening done. That is, are current active patents linked to earlier related applications, patents, international filings, or do you have to do that yourself?
Yes, so family members of patents are linked together. Using the simple family and extended family connections that the European Patent Office uses, we tie those together. So if you import a patent into a collection and it has 10 family members, you can see the 10 family members even though those 10 family members are not imported into the collection. So you can either choose to have them imported into the collection and review them along with the rest of the patents, or you can just see that they're connected to the main patent that was imported.
How about patents that are under litigation? Can you indicate those or list those some way?
Currently, we don't have the litigation database to be able to automatically do that. However, using the custom fields, you can actually manually enter that information. So the custom fields and the custom columns allow us to add metadata to the patent information, and really that can be any metadata that you want. So we had one customer that had about a dozen columns that they had been collecting in Microsoft SharePoint for many years, and we updated that information into PatentCAM. We imported their entire spreadsheet of data, created custom columns for each of the 14 areas they were tracking, and then we keep those up to date on an ongoing basis, or they keep those up to date on an ongoing basis.
Is it difficult to add custom features?
No, it's not. It's not something that we currently enable users to do themselves. So once we are given a list of the custom fields or the custom columns, we can add those in within 24 hours. In terms of features, one of the unique aspects of our solution to some of the others out there, some of the commercial providers, is that we have really been adding features based on user demand. So over the last several years, we've added several features, new features, and those have all come from users requesting features being added. So rather than trying to create features out of the box, we're always looking to the user community to figure out what the best features are to add, and then we can typically add those much more quickly than some of the larger, more traditional providers.
A couple people have asked about, can you set up alerts to find newly published patent applications or to send you an email when something is updated?
Yeah, so again, we can keep the software up to date. Once you run a search, you take all the keywords and class codes and assignee names. We can save those into the tool in the collection in which those patents reside, and then we can run those searches on an ongoing basis and send out emails at any frequency you want. We have several examples of customers where we will run those alerts and send read-only versions of the software to the end user, so they can't add any custom metadata, they can't add any comments, but they can simply review the patents, the new patents that are kept up to date in a much more simple interface, and that allows them to stay on top of the activity that's occurring in their field.
Can you provide some more details on user permission?
Sure. So the permissioning system is quite robust. We have several layers of permissions that we've created. You can, for example, have read-only access where all you can do is look at the data in the tool. We have read-write access, where you can add data to the tool. We have manager access, where you can edit other people's comments and data that other people have entered. You can permission for certain fields, so you can allow technical people to enter information in fields related to patent ratings or rankings or certain types of comments. But if there's claim analysis, that can only be permission for attorneys. So we do have quite a bit of controls over what people can do with the tool and how they can provide permission to their users.
Someone asked whether device images can be captured as for design patents.
Yeah, that's a great question. So all of the patents that are added to the tool are linked out to the patent office from which that patent comes. So if you have a U.S. patent, you can quickly link out to the U.S. Patent Office, as well as to the European Patent Office, as well as to Google Patents. We currently don't have the images in the software, but that is something that we're working on right now, to be able to enable people to use images, to comment on images, and to review images in PatentCAM.
Maybe we answered this one about patent information, non-patent information being imported from multiple platforms like Chem Abstracts, PatentBase, Derwent, etc.
Yeah, so basically any place you can get a patent number or a document object identifier for non-patent literature, those can be imported directly in the tool. You can also manually add non-patent literature, so you can add a title, an abstract, a date, a publication, and so forth. So absolutely, the tool is meant to be agnostic and really to bring people together around the information. So part of the intention of creating this software was that we recognized early on that, particularly at large corporations, there was siloing going on, where you had people in the legal department that weren't communicating across to the R&D department and to the business development department with this really vital information around patents and technical literature. And some of the software tools that are made available by the legal service providers are very legal-centric. Although they do have features that target the R&D groups, the idea here was to create a central repository where you could pull data from any solution, whether it be Clarivate or SciFinder or PatBase, and keep track of that data in one single centralized place. So you may use, for example, SciFinder to do your broad searching and to pull the results that are relevant. So you go through 1,000 documents and you end up with a group of 15. Those 15 then you would upload into PatentCAM. You may do the same thing with Clarivate or with PatBase or Questel, where you're bringing you're searching for large numbers of patents that end up typically on Excel spreadsheets. You're pulling in the ones that are relevant and storing those in PatentCAM in this centralized repository that allows people to maintain the data, look at the data, review the data, make comments on the data, share the data with colleagues, and that really puts the company in a much stronger position when it does, or if it does get into a litigation situation.
Someone asks about the import process. If you import, can you re-import a new list and have it only import the additions, that is the unique new records, into the spreadsheet?
Yeah, so it won't put duplicate patents in the same collection. So if you import a list that has 100 patents today, and then tomorrow you import a list that has those same 100 patents plus 5 more, it'll only add the 5 new ones.
Somebody asks about how the categories are applied to the document. Are they auto-searched, or is it a manual?
Bruce, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so if you're talking about the categories themselves, I mean, that's usually a desire on the part of the client. So we will select categories either based upon keywords or concepts or terms that are, general in the art. And, sort of what I described in the case study here was, if we look at, let's say, a chemical process, we can look at each step of that process and create a category and then subcategories with more specific information beneath them. So there are a number of different ways to attack it, but essentially they're all manually created.
Okay, great. Someone asks about whether are there enhanced titles and abstracts from some of these providers available for use with the tool?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so the Derwent abstracts and some of those solutions. So we don't have the right to publish that information in our database. You can paste in any abstract or any data that you want on a user by user basis, but we can't auto display data from some of the providers, particularly the private data that they've created. So, we in this algae biofuels example that we put together, we did enter some abstracts on our own that Bruce put together that were related to some of the patents he reviewed, pointing out certain characteristics of the process or of part of the technology hierarchy. But it's not something where we can auto pull those copyrighted materials from third-party tools.
Someone asks about whether the tool is integrated with financial information, say, to inform M&A activity.
That's another great question. So we don't have automatically generated financial information, but once again, if you can manage data, or if you have data in an Excel spreadsheet, we can create custom categories, just like an Excel spreadsheet, where you name columns whatever you want and you put the data in however you want it, and we can import those into PatentCAM on a daily or weekly ongoing basis. So if you had a category about revenue, we could add that to the database. I guess one good example that we use with patent information is certain customers use the tool for doing freedom to operate analysis. So they'll take their product, they will create a column header for each of the product features, and then they will make notes around which patents relate to which features, just like you would do in an Excel spreadsheet. But they can do that across dozens of features and do it in this automated searchable tool that's, again, a central repository that the attorneys can oversee. So it provides a more secure way and a more efficient way to manage that type of information.
I think we're going to wrap up there. We're getting near the end of our time. If we didn't get to your question, the speakers will receive all the questions that came in. And thank you, Matt and Bruce, for answering all those questions and for your great presentations. Thank you to all the participants for being a great audience. Please be sure to check C&EN or C&EN Online for information on the next edition of C&EN webinars. Our thanks to On24 for technology and production services. And thank you, IP Checkups, for the sponsorship that made this interactive webcast possible. For C&EN webinars, I'm Ann Thayer. Have a great day and take care.